All right, hello everyone. My name is Faruk Calkic and I'm also second term senior at Bennington studying architecture and sculpture. And same like Romana, I managed to escape the winter of Bennington and go to very warm Ecuador, where I ended up working for a firm called Chavez Arquitectos, and they're based in Guayaquil, the biggest city in Ecuador, which is a port city. And most of the things that they do deal with architectural design, but also interior and sustainable design. And I think the reason why I exactly chose them and not like some other firm there was that they're part of the Ecuador Green Building Council, which means that in every project that they do, they're striving towards the most sustainable materials, and that's like their constant recommendation to the client, which gets very cumbersome very fast because clients don't want to spend money on sustainable things. So the first thing that I worked at was kind of a warm-up project for me. I worked in a house called Casa TS, and I was supposed to design a custom staircase. So led by the belief that they would do sustainable design, I actually decided to research what the most sustainable thing for this staircase would be. This is where I took over the project, and as you can see, there's water running through the house, something that was very surprising for me coming from Europe and studying in the US. But I've decided, so after a short research about like what materials are most available and like what materials are the cheapest, we decided to go with bamboo staircase, which was very interesting to me because we actually went to go and see like how the how bamboo planks are actually made, because bamboo grows like very soft. So it was a very strange and interesting experience, and no photos were allowed, so I have to cut you for that experience. So the next thing that I worked on, which took up most of my time in Ecuador actually, was the project on Guayarte. So this project is meant to revitalize the two beaches on each side of the zigzag bridge, which is already existing there. So the left side, the Plaza de Gastronomia, which is the site that my firm actually got to work on, and the other side was done by another local company. So for this project, we had a couple of key aspects or key goals to work with. So the first one was to provide a space for local food vendors, because this area right now is it's abandoned, so it's very unsafe at night, and also there's a lot of food carts around, and like that creates a very challenging and unsafe situation because people go to buy food, but like it's very dark on the streets, and there's like it's not really favorable to go there at night. So the first thing that we did was to dedicate the whole first floor to food vendors. So each one of these shipping containers would be dedicated for a specific vendor who already sells on the street, so they could move their business to a more safer area. Second thing that we were working on was creating a new meeting space for students, because this bridge was actually made to connect the two big universities, the Catholic University, which is on this side, and the University of Guayaquil, which is on the left side. So we dedicated the whole second floor it was meant to be a space where you can buy the food downstairs and go eat upstairs, but it was also made as like a multi-space where you could go and study, meet up your friends, and be very close to your school in case you need to go to a class. One of the last things that we were working on was providing a space for public art by local artists. So as you can see, these 6 points around the bridge are supposed to be sculptures. So as soon as I got there, they're like, perfect, you study architecture and sculpture, you're gonna do it. The first week I spent sketching, figuring out what am I gonna put there. Like I need to make sculptures for this place, and like it's my first time in this country, I don't know anything. So after a week, I decided to convince the people that they should actually hire local artists, because I didn't feel right. It didn't feel right for me to do it, like an intern who's gonna be there for 2 months. So after a couple of talks with my boss and trying to find a spot, we decided to dedicate the whole back of the building for local artists, after which I did the research, and actually they have like all 12 of them are like scheduled to make their art as soon as the building goes up. And lastly, the main kind of overarching thing of this experience was to use recycled materials and reactivate a public space, because as I said, it was very unsafe before this project. I mean, it's gonna be unsafe until this project is done, because we're providing a nice place where you can go eat food, hang out with your friends, but also making a connection to the bridge and making the whole bridge more livable, because it was very dark before that. And lastly, in my little free time that I had from work, I worked for an organization called Gente Integra, which is an NGO that works with people in squatting communities, so like illegal settlements in slums. And one of the weekends that I had free, I actually dedicated to, so we were like working on a playground, so we were just kind of like manual work and repainting a playground next to that squatting community. There's a couple of photos of me. And so Ecuador as a country left me with a lot of questions, being it a different culture that I'm used to, but also working in an architecture firm that works in such an unsafe place where everything is gated. The gated communities are like the goal to go for. It was very interesting for me to think about what's the social function of architecture and how architecture itself can promote more, can provide safer environment for the people, but also kind of like stir up the social scene and like produce more public spaces. Another question was, how can architecture improve the general sense of safety, which I already talked about, and lastly, how can public art foster social change? Because I really felt discomforted by the idea that I would get to design something, and I was very happy when we were able to figure out that like the local artists should be the ones presenting there, and that like the community should be formed around the local art and not some Bosnian from US going to Ecuador. Thank you very much.